In this video, it's the end of the year, so it's the Tabletop Minions Awards 2022. It has been a year. That's much of what can be said about 2022. It's had its ups and downs. We've had worse, certainly. But for the most part, it's been a year. And because it's the end of the year, here we are, me, best tuxedo that I own, for the Tabletop Minions Awards, fourth annual, I might add, fourth annual Tabletop Minions Awards, for 2022. And if you haven't seen these before, well, for one, you should watch the other ones, Pachow, and check out all the different winners and whatnot. But the winners, so winner is a strong word. I think that they're winners. These are things that I think are pretty cool. There was no voting involved. There was no secret ballots. There was none of that. I just kind of came up with a list of things that I thought were pretty cool this year. And I'll be perfectly frank with you, some of them didn't come out this year. Generally, they sort of did, but at the very least, I have a tendency to, I found them this year, and maybe they came out a couple years ago or whatever, but, it's not for the best of 2022. It's the best that I came across in 2022, if that makes any sense. We should get started. So just remember, these are in no particular order. These are just in the order that I kind of put them in my notes when I first started coming up with who the winners were going to be for this year's TMAs. And the first winners, straight out of the gate, that I put in my notes, War Games Atlantic. Now, War Games Atlantic is a company that makes mostly plastic miniature kits, but they cover like so many different genres, which I think is really cool. They don't really particularly have a game associated, but they do have a lot of different models. And in those models, there are a lot of different parts. And like I said, they cover just every different type of genre you can think of. Do you want halfling militia? Well, they got that, yeah. Do you want sci-fi riflemen with big furry hats who kind of seem a little French? They got that as well. And what if you want, now get this, lizardmen that are either with swords or assault rifles and gas masks? They got that. It's all in one kit. Everything that they make is incredibly modular, with tons and tons and tons of extra parts. And so many heads in that, with the big furry hat guys, those guys, there are 24 models in that kit, 192 heads. So you have a lot of options, is my point. So, it's a kit basher's dream, these models. They've got stuff that's fantasy, spiders and goblins and skeletons. I don't own the spiders, but I own the skeletons and the goblins and the lizardmen, as I mentioned. They've got stuff that's World War I. They got some French and some German, which I'm using for the last war, which I mentioned in last week's video. Let me see what else they've got. They got a bunch of that sci-fi kind of stuff. It's like war as a sport sort of situation, and they've got a lot of different models in that whole line. They've got historical stuff. They've got a lot of different parts, a lot of different things. And upcoming, I believe, in 2023, they're going to start making models for a game that I've always been interested in called Visquar's War. And you should go and check out on their website, check out their blog, and kind of see that. If you've ever seen those kind of bipedal anteater type of kind of World War I figures that have been around from Zombie Smith Games for a long time, they're coming soon in plastic from War Games Atlantic. I love to see the things that they do, and I don't want to say the risks that they take necessarily, but I just like the fact that they're not just we just have to do what everybody else is doing. They're doing a lot of interesting things, and I know I've bought a bunch of it. Our next award it's for something that I've been looking for quite some time. A big, stumpy robot-style mech battle game that isn't too dense, right? I played BattleTech in middle school and in college a bit, and it's just not what I'm looking for anymore. And I know that there's Alpha Strike and stuff. People have brought that up, and I've messed with that a little bit as well. But I'm looking for something that's just a simpler game that I really enjoy. And then also I'm looking for all the cool things that go with it. What I'm talking about is Steel Rift from Death Ray Designs. There's a great rule set. Vince and I got to play it at Nova Open this past August. And it's also got cool models, which are all 3D printed, not you have to have a 3D printer to get them. They don't really sell STLs for the models. You buy them from them and they're 3D printed. And I just really like the sculpts. They're just more interesting to me for some reason than Battletech, and I don't know why. I think they're chunkier, a little bit more low slung. They seem a little slightly bit more realistic. I mean, we're talking about, big stompy robots. So anyway, they also have a line of terrain, like I mentioned, MDF, and also STLs. So if you wanted to 3D print some stuff, but they also sell MDF things that you can put together and all that kind of stuff. And like I said, I got to play it at Nova Open along with my friend Vince. We were taught by Austin from Death Ray Designs. Death Ray Designs is publishing the game, but Ash Barker from here on YouTube, Guerrilla Miniature Games, he's the designer of the game. The whole book is like 36 pages total, so it's really kind of up my alley because it is designed to be a game that is not too dense and is designed to be played quickly and has a lot of streamlining, which I'm looking for and I enjoy. But there's still plenty of things. There's lots of extra little parts you can get for the models, so you can really kind of WYSIWYG them up and all that kind of stuff. And I like that part too. They're not just like, here's a model and this is what it looks like. There are a bunch of parts that you get, so you can put them together in different ways depending on your weapon loadout, which I think is also very cool. So if you're interested in looking for a big stompy robot game, but you haven't been able to find anything, definitely take a look over at Death Ray Designs and Steel Rift. If the current selection of fantasy kind of knight models, and by knight I mean with a K in the front, like those knights with the armor and the whole deal, if the selection of fantasy knight models that are currently out there available leaves you a bit cold, then you should take a look at our next winner, Saint Decent. She is a 3D sculptor who sells STLs on My Mini Factory, and she also has a Patreon as well. And she just has this very distinct visual style to her models that I rather enjoy. They kind of go across the gamut from things that look a little bit more believable and like realistic, yet still have a lot of character to them, like the Mage Hunters line that she's put out. Those can be used in so many different types of games, and they're not like too weird, right? Like you could definitely see those in even Age of Sigmar or whatever, right? And then you go to the other end of the spectrum where you have the Cauldron Knights, who are just basically huge, giant, kind of fat guys in armor and whatnot. And they go into a much more fanciful, kind of interesting direction. She also has an entire line of different heads. So if you're like, I have a bunch of models, but I want their heads to be more interesting, you can buy STLs, all of those. She's even got some cat girl heads, which you can use in whatever kind of weird thing that you want to, I suppose. And she started streaming a little bit now on Twitch as well. And she's streamed a couple of times with Max from Turnup 28 because she did all the sculpts for the most recent, like literally just finished, I think yesterday, Turnup 28 Kickstarter. They've got an entire line of Turnup 28 models now, and she did the sculpting on them all, and they're very characterful and interesting, and I painted a bunch of them recently on Twitch, and it was a lot of fun. They're great models, super modular as well. So if you're interested and you either have a 3D printer or have access to a friend who has a 3D printer or whatever, or even take a look on Etsy, honestly, there are a lot of different cool models that she's been putting out, and I really like the sculpt work that's been going on between her own work and also the stuff that she's doing with Turnup 28. So if you're interested, definitely go and take a look at Saint Decent over on My Mini Factory. Now, however, if you like science fiction and you don't have access to a 3D printer and just you want great plastic, like all-purpose sci-fi minis, then our next winner, Stargrave Plastic Miniatures, are really kind of up your street, I'm going to say. Some of them have come out, a while ago, but they keep producing new sets. There are 3 base sets that originally came out. There's Crew, Troopers, and Mercenaries. And like I said, they came out a bit ago. In that situation, you've got obviously a lot more kind of guns and kind of armor and stuff like that in the Troopers and Mercenaries type of thing than you do in Crew. But sometimes you need Crew, who are people that are going to fix the ship or whatever, or just don't have as much armor and don't have as big guns. You have a lot of different options. Again, these are incredibly modular, like plastic kits. So you've got lots of heads and lots of arms and lots of guns and torsos and all that kind of stuff, and they can go together in a near infinite amount of different ways. The thing that's very cool, though, is that recently, and like very recently, as a matter of fact, they've also added a box called Crew 2 and also Mercenaries 2, which are both boxes that have female models in them. Now, in all the boxes that I've mentioned, the male or the female, there's also a lot of alien heads in there, too. So you can put those alien heads on the models to make them not look like they're necessarily human, or you can put those alien heads on other models from other companies and, all that kind of customizable, kit-bashable stuff to your heart's delight, which is what I really enjoy doing. They're made by North Star Miniatures, who also made the entire line of Frostgrave plastic miniatures, which are also spectacular. So if you're interested in these models, I like to paint them definitely a little bit more grungy. I mean, I kind of paint everything a little bit more grungy, but they are kind of smooth, which gives you the ability, in my opinion. And I like that they didn't grunge them up in the model stage, because then it's really hard if you want to make like very clean looking, almost like Star Trekian kind of figures. If they're got holes in their armor and in their clothes and stuff like that, and you paint them all smooth, they look all weird. But if you have a very smooth model, you can either just beat up the model a little bit with your X-Acto blade and stuff like that, or just do it all in paint. It's up to you. You have all the different options, so many different parts, which you can use on so many other models as well. Again, kit bashing is a huge thing. So yeah, definitely check out the Stargrave plastic models and find them either at your local store or you can find them online. I think that they're really great. I just talked about why I like this next winner, like literally last week, right? But not too many people actually seem to watch that video. So, pachow, go check it out. Honestly, it would be helpful, and you'll find out more than you'll find out in this little snippet. But I'm talking about Forbidden Psalm, the Forbidden Psalm series, which includes the original game, Forbidden Psalm, which is all pretty much fantasy. You have a unit or a crew, not a crew. Let's say it's a band of 5 adventurers who are going out and trying to find cool trinkets and things like that to bring back to the Mad Wizard so they can get money to, I assume, eat and live and whatnot. But there's a lot of crazy humor to the game because it's based off of the Merkborg RPG system. But it's a great little game. You can get them PDF or print. The PDFs are pretty inexpensive, like $12, $13, something like that on Wargame Vault. But then there's also beginning part of the year, The Last War, which is still using the same engine as Forbidden Psalm. Technically, the game is called Forbidden Psalm: The Last War, but it is taking place in like an alternate history, like weird World War I, where most everybody has kind of died and there's just survivors and you know, scavengers left, and they have to go up against haunted tanks and giant trench maggots and stuff like that. It's pretty cool. And again, these are games you can play solo co-op and also adversarial if you want to do that. And you can play them on a 2-foot by 2-foot. You don't need tons of space for these games, which is also very cool. And now they have, most recently, Kill Sample Process, which is a cyberpunk game. Each of these systems, as they've gone along, has also added more to the system. You know, playing Kill Sample Process, if you've played Forbidden Psalm, will make total sense, but there will be things that have been added on and this kind of stuff and whatnot. So if you're interested in indie games like I am, and if you've been watching this for a while, you know I am, you should definitely take a look at Forbidden Psalm and decide which one is for you, if not all of them. And finally, our last award winners, they've not won a Tabletop Minions Award in the last 2 years. They won 3 years ago. They had a win in there, but they've not won the last 2. And I'm sure that as an organization, it has nearly crushed them to not show up here in the TMAs. But that plucky little company called Games Workshop is back in the winner's circle this year with the Hearthkin Warriors models from the new Leagues of Votan. Votan? It's the squats. They're the squats, and that's what I prefer to call them. They are great models. When they first showed off that very first, like, hey, we're bringing back the squats, and everybody got super excited. As soon as I saw that model, I'm like, that's what I want. I need those. And it's interesting because every single model they showed off in the line after that, I was like, that one I don't need. Nope. Nope. And they're not bad, but they just go into a direction that I'm not interested in. They have a lot of runes on them. They kind of lean real heavy into the whole dwarf thing. And I'm just looking for, kind of stocky little kind of like space people who are doing stuff and not covered in skulls or any kind of iconography at all for the most part, really, which is great. So the Hearthkin Warriors specifically, those are the models that I was most interested in. At this point, I have now purchased, I think, 2 sets, and I'm going to be using them for, I've already built 6 of them and written a list for Space Weirdos, and I'm going to be using those. Here's the thing about building them, though. They're great models, and they mostly go together really well, except for a couple. If you decide to go with the face mask version of the heads, that's actually really hard to get seated just right, and I don't understand quite why. If you decide to use one of them where they're like, it's just a head and it's no face mask, the heads go in there easy, super fine, not a problem. But if you decide to go with the covered face mask thing, that's actually a little bit of a pain in the butt. Nonetheless, I finally got them on there. I think the next set that I'll do, I won't put those face masks on there. The next set will just be all open head. But I'll be painting them soon on Twitch, and I'm really enjoying those particular models. They've come out obviously with an entire line of different stuff. It's an entire new army, but the base troops, the Hearthkin Warriors, really kind of made me happy about that plucky little company, Games Workshop, again, and their models. And I mean, there's been some that have been just fine. Don't get me wrong. I do still quite like a lot of the models that they make, but these were, in my opinion, the best ones they put out this year. And so that's why I put them here in the TMA 2022. So congratulations to all of the winners. I'll be putting links to their whatever down in the description below. If you think that it's kind of interesting here, what I've said about some of these things, I would go down and click on those links and definitely check on those products and go out there and take a look at them. It's not any kind of affiliate link or anything like that. I'm just making straight links. And I'm putting things out there because I think that these things that I like are things that more people should hear about so that they can also potentially like them as well. I hope you had a great 2022, or at least a not terrible one. That would be really cool. If there's a model or a thing or something that's tabletop wargaming related that you think should be included, you can put that in the comments below. I'm sure that there are things that you're probably thinking, well, why didn't you mention that? And that's fair. But, put it down below in the comments. And I hope that you have a good new year, and we'll see you in 2023. Thanks for watching.